Hospitals are supposed to be the safest places, right? Places where people go to heal, where doctors and nurses protect life. But what if I told you there was a hospital where death didn't just come from sickness, but from something far more terrifying? A hospital where the danger wasn't the illness you carried in, but the man quietly walking the hallways at night. This is the story of a hospital that hid a killer inside its walls. It all started in the late 1990s, in a quiet town that most people wouldn't even notice on a map. The hospital was small, just 5 floors, not very modern, but people trusted it. Families brought their loved ones there for checkups. Mothers gave birth there, and old folks went there to spend their last days. The building smelled like disinfectant and old walls, and the fluorescent lights always flickered, buzzing like tired bees. At night, the hospital was different. The hallways emptied. The sounds of chatter and footsteps were replaced by silence, broken only by the slow beep of heart, monitors, and the squeak of a nurse's shoes. Patients would often say nights felt heavier, colder, like the building itself didn't want to sleep. That's when people started dying. At first, no one thought anything strange about it. After all, people die in hospitals all the time, especially the elderly, the sick, the weak. But soon, the nurses noticed something unusual. Patients who weren't supposed to die did. People who had stable conditions, who were even scheduled to be discharged the next day, suddenly flatlined in the middle of the night. It became a pattern, always at night, always when the hospital was quietest. And there was one more thing. Each victim was found with a strange bruise on their neck, not a natural mark, not something caused by sickness, but the shape of a hand. At first, the staff tried to dismiss it. They told themselves maybe the patients were fragile, maybe their bodies bruised easily. But one young nurse, Clara, wasn't convinced. She was new, only in her 20s, but she noticed things others ignored. She noticed that every time someone died, there was one nurse who had been on shift, a man named Andrew. Andrew was in his 40s, polite, quiet, and very well liked by most of the staff. He had been working there for more than 15 years. Patients often said he had a calming voice, and he always smiled when he walked into a room. To outsiders, he looked like the perfect nurse, but Clara noticed something off. Sometimes late at night, when most staff were taking their short breaks, Andrew would disappear. He would leave his station for 20 minutes at a time. When he returned, his face was pale, and his hands shook slightly, as if he'd been doing something that took great effort. One night, Clara followed him. She wasn't supposed to. Nurses had their duties, and stalking a colleague wasn't one of them. But curiosity got the better of her. She trailed him down the dim corridor, keeping her steps soft. Andrew walked slowly, his shoes making a soft echo against the tile floor. He turned into a patient's room. Clara held her breath and peeked through the small window in the door. Inside, she saw Andrew standing over an old man. At first, she thought he was checking his vitals, but then she noticed his hands. They were around the man's throat. The patient's body shook, his hands weakly trying to push Andrew away, but Andrew leaned in closer, whispering something Clara couldn't hear. The man's monitor went wild, beep, 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 until it flatlined. Then Andrew calmly adjusted the sheets, wiped his hands on his uniform and walked out, as if nothing had happened. Clara froze. Her heart raced. She wanted to scream, to run, but fear glued her to the floor. Andrew didn't see her. He walked right past, humming a soft tune under his breath. The next morning, when the staff found the old man dead, no one suspected foul play. It was written down as cardiac arrest. Clara wanted to tell someone, but what could she say? Who would believe her? She was just a new nurse, and Andrew was trusted by everyone. But she couldn't keep quiet. Over the next few weeks, she started documenting everything. Each death, each time Andrew disappeared from the nurse's station, each patient that seemed too healthy to just die. The list grew, and what scared her most was how random it all was. Andrew didn't pick the sickest patients. Sometimes he chose young ones, recovering from surgery, even children. He seemed to kill not out of mercy, but curiosity. Clara began to notice his eyes. When Andrew looked at a patient, it wasn't with care, it was with hunger. He would watch their breathing, the rise and fall of their chest, as if he were imagining stopping it. Then one night, Clara stayed late, determined to catch him again. She positioned herself in the break room near the hallway, pretending to sip coffee. At around 2 a.m., Andrew slipped away. Clara followed. This time, he went into the room of a middle-aged woman who had just undergone a successful appendectomy. She was supposed to go home the next morning. Clara, her hands trembling, opened the door just enough to see. And there it was again, Andrew's hands pressing firmly on the woman's neck, his expression blank, almost peaceful, like he was listening to music only he could hear. Clara burst in. "Stop!" she screamed. Andrew jerked back, his eyes wide with shock. The woman gasped for air, clawing at her throat. Clara rushed to her side, checking her pulse, trying to stabilize her breathing. Andrew just stood there, frozen. Then, something terrifying happened. He smiled. "You shouldn't have seen that," he whispered. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with something inhuman. Clara backed away, pushing the emergency button on the wall. The alarm blared through the hospital. Footsteps thundered down the hallway as other nurses and doctors came running, and Drew didn't move. He just kept smiling, his hands dripping with the patient's sweat. When the staff arrived, Clara pointed at him, shouting, "He tried to kill her!" But Andrew's face changed. He shook his head, playing the role of the concerned nurse. "She stopped breathing," he lied smoothly. "I was trying to resuscitate her." The staff hesitated. Who would they believe? The new nurse or the veteran with years of trust? For a while it seemed like Clara would be silenced. But then the woman on the bed, her voice weak but clear, whispered, "He tried to kill me." That was enough. Security was called. Andrew was restrained and taken away. But even as they dragged him down the hallway, he never stopped smiling. He locked eyes with Clara and mouthed two words, "Not over." The investigation that followed uncovered a nightmare. Records were pulled. Over the course of 15 years, Andrew had been on duty for nearly every sudden death in the hospital. Hundreds of cases. Most were written off as natural, but the evidence was undeniable. He wasn't just a nurse. He was a predator, hiding in plain sight, using the hospital as his hunting ground. They called him the night nurse. Clara quit shortly after his arrest. She couldn't stand the thought of working in those hallways again. Even after Andrew was locked up, she never felt safe. She said sometimes, late at night, she could still hear that soft humming, echoing in her ears, the same tune. He hummed after taking a life. And here's the worst part. During the trial, Andrew confessed to only a handful of murders. But when asked how many he really killed, he just smiled and said, "You'd be surprised how easy it is. People come to hospitals expecting to die." To this day, no one knows the exact number of his victims. So, next time you walk into a hospital late at night, take a good look around. The flickering lights, the empty hallways, the silent rooms. Because sometimes the danger isn't what's inside your body, but who's standing at the end of your bed, watching you breathe. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, trust is fragile. Even in the safest places, monsters can wear the kindest smiles.